Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhirayat. Canto 3, Chapter 18, The Battle Between Lord Bor and Hiranyaksha, text number 7. Tam Niksharantam Salilad Anodruto Hiranyakesho Dviradham Yata Jasa Karaladang Stroshani Nisvano Bravit Gatahrayam Kim Tu Asatam Vigarhitam Tamni Sarantam Salilad Anodruto Hiranyakesho Dviradham Yata Jasa Karaladang Stroshani Nishvano Bravit Katahrayam Kim Twasatam Vigarhitam
Tam Nisharantam Salilan Anodito Keso Dradam Yachadasha Karatam Trodani Nisvano Bravit Iyam Kintva Asatam Vigarhitam
Samnihatarantam Saliladhamudruto Keshudratam Yutadasha Vishwano Pravir Vipasatam Vigarhitam
Ladies. Tam, him. Nisaratan, coming out. Salilat, from the water. Anudrutaha, chaste. Hiranyakeshaha, having golden hair. Dviradam, an elephant. Yatta, as. Jasaha, a crocodile. Karaladangstraha, having fearful teeth. Ashani nisfanam, roaring like thunder. Abravit, he said. Gata hiriyam, for those who are shameless. Kim, what? To, indeed, asatam, for the wretches. Vigrahitam, reproachable. Translation, the demon who had golden hair on his head and fearful tusks. Shoo. Gave chase to the Lord while he was rising from the water. Even as an alligator would chase an elephant roaring like thunder, he said, "Are you not ashamed of running away before a challenging adversary? There is nothing reproachable for shameless creatures." Insulting words. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When the Lord was coming out of the water, taking the earth in his arms to deliver it, although the previous verse says the earth was on his tusks, this purport says the earth was in his arms. I'm just anticipating some questions during discussion. I'm used to it. The demon derided him with insulting words, but the Lord did not care because he is very conscious of his duty. For a dutiful man, there is nothing to fear. Similarly, those who are powerful have no fear of derision or unkind words from an enemy, although yesterday's verse said he felt pain. The Lord has nothing to fear from anyone, yet he was merciful to his enemy by neglecting him. Mercy. Although apparently he fled from the challenge, it was just to protect the earth from calamity that he tolerated Hiranyaksha's deriding words. Well, there's some conflicting information here, but that's okay. We're transcendentalists. We don't mind conflicting information. On the one hand, and on the other hand, and on the one hand, and on the other hand. So, the earth was on his tusks, and the earth was in his arms. He felt pain, he was indifferent, or at least he tolerated. So, pain, no pain, tolerated. Just the harsh words. And then he has no duty to do, but he had a duty to do. What's going on? Conflict after conflict, contradiction after contradiction after contradiction. So although he's in this Varaha form, there are seemingly human-like traits or characteristics. Seemingly human-like traits or characteristics. Say it again. seemingly human-like traits or characteristics, like duty. He has no duty. Now he makes a pledge, and he fulfills his word. He's going to give protection to elevated souls. And the demigods are elevated souls, and they pleaded help, so he came to help. And he did it in very, very creative way, very attractive, very amazing way. Appear as a hog. Really? Why not? Because several things. Because everything comes from the source of everything. So within the source of everything is everything. So why not? If there can be hogs in this plane, there can be features of the Supreme Lord in form of a hog. And there are places that describe that the forms of the Lord are unlimited. Just as there are forms in this world that are emanations from Him, they're reflections of Him. So why not? And not just the ones that are the primary ones that are listed, there's unlimited ones. Unlimited ones. Oh, Varaha. And he has tusks. And he's lifting the earth on his tusks. Because he's asked by the demigods, and he gives his pledge to give protection to the sadhus, Pritunaya sadhunam, and the rest. Vinashaya. So he's going to vinash the Duskriti in a moment, but for now he's just ignoring him, as the Prabhupada writes in the purport. He was merciful to his enemy by neglecting him. So he's going to be merciful by slapping him also. So it's not, mercy has only one category. If the merciful is merciful, whether it's this or that. So we're getting in this little episode a range of feelings, human-like feelings, and transcendental feelings. A sense of duty that is human-like because he has no duty, but it's absorption in his duty carries him beyond fear, beyond hurt of stinging words. He neglects the words. He neglects the person. And he's saying insulting things. Because the insulting person, Hiranyaksha, he wants combat. So he'll get combat. But to get combat, sometimes insulting words are spoken. Just came across this recently, where Krishna spoke some insulting words in order to engage an adversary in combat, so he could finish him. But it's protocol. You want combat, you insult somebody. So he's the personality of God, and he's not feeling insulted. He's not feeling insulted. Yesterday, he's feeling hurt. Today, he's not feeling insulted. He's above it. Nothing material can touch him. Nothing material can see. So the reconciliation from the discussion yesterday was resting upon the human-like trait of the Lord feeling pain, and then the next question was, what about pure devotees? Do they feel hurt when physical, or more significantly or more difficult to deal with is when there's harshness in speech? Do they feel pain? So I'm sure some of you thought about it, because I got some messages after the class yesterday. Prasanna sent one that when Prabhupada was asked when he had his heart attack, did you feel pain? You remember? And little. Heart attack is not little. Something. Then he very kindly, graciously, munificently said, because there were prayers, it wasn't very light, it was very little. Reduced the pain. Really? I mean, so what's he indicating? It's a transcendental gesture. Whether or not his pain was reduced is not really the point. It's just he was encouraging the devotees. Your prayers don't go, they're not useless. When somebody has some difficulty, please extend your prayers. It's not useless. Why is it not useless? Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead hears prayers and he responds. Proportionate to our sincerity, he responds. Not just desperation. Desperation isn't a 0. It's not a 10. It's sincere. We discussed this a little bit yesterday. The devotee may pray to the Supreme Lord, please deliver all the conditioned souls. Now, he's ready, but the conditioned souls may not be ready. And it's not just a matter of the obstacle of their sinful reactions that's blocking them, it's their tendency to misuse their free will, because sinful reactions can be cleared, and then one can go on doing sinful behavior or rebellious, not even necessarily sinful, but even pious, but rebellious mood that who's Krishna anyway. So that demoniac tendency isn't eradicated simply by someone's prayers, unless the Supreme Personality of Godhead intervenes, and by that intervention, just like we heard yesterday, Kaliya got smashed. And then it took many smashings, but he eventually came to the position of recognizing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrendering to him. Now, I read in Garga Samhita, because, by the way, Garga Samhita, this is yesterday evening class, Garga Samhita is Narada explaining that it was Ananta Shesha who informed Kaliya that there's a place where you can go where you're not going to have a problem. Ananta Shesha informed him, according to Garga Samhita, Kaliya went all over the 3 worlds, and it names the places, and every place he went, Garuda could follow. So he went to the lower regions of the universe where Ananta Shesha was there, and he said, where can I go? He gave him the place to go. Ananta Shesha told him the place he could go. And why? So there he went. The why was Sobri Muni, and Sobri Muni made a curse. Sobri Muni had to suffer because of that curse. Cursing Garuda? My goodness. That's offensive. And he got spanked because of that offense. He had consequences for his offense. Nothing goes unnoticed by the personality of Godhead. So be careful in dealing with a devotee. This is not just Garuda or the most elevated of persons. Vaishnava Purana is very serious business, so be very careful. So Ananta Shesha is the one who informed Kaliya where to go, I got distracted from the train of thought, of the previous train of thought. I lost it. Could somebody remember where I was before I got in the Anantasesha story? Anyway. Vaishnava Parad. That was the topic. What? Yeah, I told that one. It was just so prayer has effect because prayer doesn't go unnoticed, but offense doesn't go unnoticed. It's just the atheist doesn't recognize. So here we have Hiranyaksha. He's a devotee, but he's just playing the role. He's playing the role very well. Insulting personality of Godhead. And personality of Godhead is being kind to him by being indifferent to him, then turns around and does combat because that was the purpose of Hiranyaksha, of giant Vijay descending, because this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, 3 personalities were satisfied by one act. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, was satisfied. These 2 gatekeepers, you should punish them. Sanat Kumar and the Kumar brothers, they cursed them. So they were cursed. So which fulfilled their desire. And giant Vijay, their desire is fulfilled. If you so desire, we understand you like chivalry, but who is there to be chivalrous in Vaikuntha? So if you like, we can play that role, but it's not in Vaikuntha. It has to come to this place, where there's envy and the other kind of chivalry. Who's going to do combat with Vishnu in Vaikuntha? So there are pastimes in the Lord's earthly descent that don't appear in the spiritual realm. Many nice examples, many nice examples. So that part of the Lord's descent is for him to enjoy the happiness of loving exchange in different varieties, that although everything is within him, it may not manifest in Vaikuntha because there's this Aishwarya mood in Vaikuntha that doesn't get transgressed because it's Vaikuntha. It's Vaikuntha. And if there's a transgression, apparent transgression, like the gatekeepers not letting the 4 Kumaras and the 4 Kumaras being transcendentalists getting angry, what is a transcendentalist getting angry for? They don't get angry, but they got angry. It's not Vaikuntha. This doesn't exist because there's not confrontation like that. So it's a pastime. It's fulfilling a desire. So back to Hiranyaksha, he's fulfilling a desire. His speaking harsh words purposefully to engage the Lord in combat, speaking harshly to engage the Lord in combat, what's the other example I was just reading? Krishna spoke some harsh words to somebody so that he could engage them in battle. And then once there was battle, he finished the person. But they were deserving to be killed by him, but he instigated the whole scene by insulting them. And then they turned on him in battle. Anyway, different activities by the personality of God that may be out of, in one sense, out of character for the personality of God, because he doesn't get angry. He's equipoised, he's beyond that. But he may do that for purpose of a Leela. Now, just one final thing. Isn't it convenient? Isn't it a whitewash to say, it's Leela? How do you explain this? It's Leela. Just paint it white, and Krishna's doing what Krishna wants to do because he's Krishna, and he wants to enjoy, so he wants to enjoy this way, and so it's just whitewashed. It's just Leela. Now, behind the statement, it's Leela, then our acharyas may assist us in understanding why the Leela. What's the desire or the seed of desire of the Supreme Lord for his enjoyment or for the enjoyment of his devotees or for some other purpose or another? What's the seed of desire for the Leela? So it's in many cases it's hidden. In some cases it's disclosed. And very elevated Vaishnavas, they have the capacity to discern what's the purpose behind it, whatever the situation is. I mentioned it last night, and I'm just sharing it, and I've been absorbed in the next Radharani Leela, and it's Madhava Mahotsava. But the pastime in Madhava Mahotsava is Radharani is a whole big ceremony to establish Radharani as the queen of Braja. So why is it called Madhava Mahotsava? And the answer is given, Krishna gave the name, and he explains this to Madhu Mangal. This is the name of this pastime because Radharani is shy. She doesn't want her name up in neon lights or anything like that. So we'll call it Madhava Mahotsava. And the way that it's narrated by Jiva Goswami is there's 3 celebrations. One, the first of the 3, is the Cowherd Boys. They have their own celebration where they establish Krishna as the king of Braja. Child's play. And then the second is the gopis getting a little huff. So they have their little drama where Radharani is made the queen, and they crown her the queen. And then the third is just a much bigger event, and it gets like filled with intrigue, but there's more formally, Radharani becomes the queen of Braja. Madhava Mahotsava. So what's the purpose? It takes acharyas to disclose purposes. So we may not understand, that's okay. Being inquisitive, that's okay. And if you don't get the answer, it's okay. But it doesn't mean there isn't an answer. I mean, just like yesterday evening, what's with the Nagapatnis? And where do they go afterwards? Also, like who is their guru and why? And so many unanswered questions. So somewhere there's a backstory, and we may not know what the backstory is. That's okay. Being inquisitive to know, and it's not essential to know. Here's one. And who was Putana before she was Putana? What was her previous life? No, Compliments of Madhavananda in his Bindu magazine, he just came out with the latest version that has an 8-page excerpt from a Purana that says who Putana was in her previous life. I haven't gone through it yet, but she was right up there, in the first amongst the demons specifically sent by Kamsa to find out this 8th child of Devaki. Where is this 8th child of Devaki? Find and kill. Thanks a lot. So how did she get into that position? Who was she? So there's backstories to the backstory too. So that's Puranas, but the purpose of the Puranas is not just more information, load up your computer with your hard drive with more information, and you had a good computer. There's lots of information on your hard drive. But it's lessons of essentially the whole of the Vedas is for one purpose, to know Krishna. And something that may help you to know Krishna, being inquisitive is great. How is this going to help you know Krishna? To know who Putana was in her previous life and all of those things. To bear that in mind and not, persons become attracted to stories. It's quite natural. Everybody likes a good story, good storyteller, and some persons are really good storytellers. And some really good stories. Prabhupada would use stories, just listening to one this morning. Savitri telling Yamaraj, don't take my son. There's telling a story to his audience, that 1966 New York City audience, so he could help them understand a point. So a story may illustrate a point, and what's the point of a point? It's to come to the place, ultimately to come to the place. The Puranas are to help one come to the point of understanding the Supreme Person and the subordinate position of all others besides the Supreme Person. And then how the universe works, and behind how the universe works is the Supreme Person. So some persons, conditioned souls, generally aren't, even if they're spiritually interested, they're easily distracted by so many things. So to help keep absorption and attraction, hearing the pastimes of Krishna and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranic literatures that have as their essence to know who is Krishna and take shelter of him. That's our program. Okay, so let's see if there's some discussion. Yes.
Guru Maharaj, a couple of things. This morning I was, Jagadananda Prabhu and I were talking about this point about devotees feeling pain. The question I had is, the Lord feeling pain, hearing the insulting words of Hiranyaksha, could it be the pain coming from, the way Jagadananda Prabhu phrased it, is paradukha dukhi, feeling sadness for how sorry state he is in to be insulting the Lord with such.
But that's a possibility. But the verse says he tolerated it. He felt pain. So that would kind of rule out that option. The pain was the paradukkha dukkhi pain, because he tolerated it. You don't tolerate compassion. That's a certain type of pain, for sure. The pain of compassion. Next.
We often hear that the purpose of creation is for us as conditioned souls to exercise our mode of enjoyment. At the same time, there's these, moments we hear in the Bhagavatam of how the Lord comes to this material world to explicitly exercise Leela that he cannot experience in the spiritual realm. So, is there another dimension of the purpose of creation beyond centering around our own correction, but also centering around the Lord's pleasure?
Sure. It's loving exchanges with living entities in different categories, the whole range of categories. It's a feature of the Lord's compassion and loving exchange with those who are in prison. And lots of variegatedness, but his pleasure. Yes. Now, having said that, saying yes to the example, and why? There are and when Krishna, specifically, the Leela of Parakiya Rasa, as opposed to Swakiya Rasa, is not just compassion for conditioned souls. It's a place outside of Goloka Vrindavan where Krishna can enjoy Parakiya Rasa. That doesn't happen in Goloka because there's no room for that, because Krishna and Radha are married. Anyway. Yes, over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In the context of when you were talking about Putana, who was she in the previous, previously, you made a statement that why is that important? The important thing is our attraction towards Krishna being developed.
Yes.
So starting from there, but casting a wider net, the question that's coming to me is, if there are unanswered questions, and when I read Bhagavad, I'm specifically coming from the perspective of reading Bhagavatam with my children, and when there are loose ends, in the tapestry, and it may seem that the fear I have is that would they lose the trust in the scripture because there are certain loose ends, certain unanswered questions?
Well, you can help them. As you help yourself, you can help them. You hold their hand and say, it's okay. It's not like there's something wrong with the scripture because there's loose ends. And if you're okay, then you can help them become okay. Now, your boys are who they are. They have their personalities, and they're not you. But if you're clear, you can help them. And there may be scriptural references that you are not familiar with, but there may be scriptural references elsewhere that give an answer to that loose end. And just, you're not a walking encyclopedia yet. But what it depends on, your boys are your boys. But I'll research it and see what I can come up with. Hang in there. And I may not find an answer. And I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that? But, there's somewhere there's an answer. Likely that somewhere there's an answer. Just like, the Esther discussion, which they heard. Who were the Nagapatnis? Etc. So there's a loose end. And it's okay if there's a loose end. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with the scripture. There's only so many verses. Trying to recall the number. There's a description of the number of verses in Srimad Bhagavatam in the heavenly realm. And so we don't have all the verses of the Bhagavatam, and that's okay. Let's go take a visit to the heavenly planet and find out what the Bhagavatam that has so many verses says about this. But if I don't know, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with the scripture. It's 18,000 verses, that's it.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, and I think one of the resources we have is there is a WhatsApp group in this temple where I post my questions, and so that's been a help. But also, specifically, for example, incidentally, we're reading this particular section at home.
Which particular?
This Jaya Vijaya and everything at home, and the conduct of the 4 Kumaras, for instance, is. I find that
it's inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. That's easy. Piece of cake. Out of character behavior, radically out of behavior character. Where's that coming from? They're Brahman realized. Brahman realized. Where's anger coming from for a Brahman realized jiva? They're an instrument. Supersoul is within the heart of the 4 Kumaras. There's this. I like those paintings. They're pointing fingers. You too don't belong here. We curse you. That's not the 4 Kumaras. That's not the Brahman realized person. So where's it coming from? It's okay. Supersoul. To assist in the pastime. And they get a lot of benefit too. So. Next.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I had a glimpse of that story in the Bindu magazine, which you just cited.
Okay.
And Putana was Charumati, and she was married to.
You're going to tell the whole story right now?
No, just the thing is, she was. They were a very devout Vaishnava couple. And then...
Don't tell the whole story.
Okay. She cheated on her husband and...
Don't tell the whole story.
Okay. So this story did not agree with what you have said previously about she being Ratnamala, Bali Maharaj's sister. So I was trying to think what's the... Ratnamala, who became angry with Vamana Dev.
Yeah.
So she is Putana. So I was thinking there are 2 stories there.
Okay. To make it, because of time, someone is, they've probably done it already, extracted that 6-page PDF section of his Bindu magazine. I'll give it to Bangshidhari because he's going to send me a text message to remind me to send it to him. And then he can circulate it and you can all read the story. But when you read the story, try to remember what's the purpose of reading the story. It's not just information for your hard drive. Now you're smarter with more encyclopedia information. Not that kind of purpose, okay? Okay.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Within the context of my personal situation, when performing devotional service or trying to, you see opposition and sometimes personal opposition. And you do that, you are extremely disappointed and sometimes even pained and angered with the person who is interfering with your performance, whatever services that you are engaged in. And this person may not be a devotee, or the circumstance may be something, for example, you're trying to get a permit to do something for the temple, and there are government authorities who will, and specifically those who are envious. What emotions? There are emotions, and there are sometimes you almost feel like cursing that person. Why are you doing this? There is absolutely no reason, and then you step back and say, that's
reason.
not the right thing.
There is reason.
So
There's reason. So what do you do when there's reason? You smile. Just see this material world as such a place. It's the nature of the place, isn't it? So, now how, then you go into, this is my standard response to a question like this. Go into reflective space, mode of goodness space, and you contemplate, what's that emotion I'm feeling? Not just why is the person the way they are, because that you have the answer to. Why am I feeling this emotion? Where's it coming from? Become introspective. You follow the thread, and you'll find, I want to be the controller. It's not going the way that my controlling spirit says it should be going, so I'm feeling frustrated. I have an expectation that's not being met, so I'm feeling this feeling. Why do I have this, go deeper, why do I have this I'm the controller mood? What should be the mood? What do I substitute for that one? The service mood. And when you have service, it's sometimes and sometimes. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is think of Srila Prabhupada. Let me take shelter of him, because how much obstacle did he face? And how did he respond to obstacle? Each time, millions of times, obstacle. He was fixed, and it's very similar to what this passage is. He was fixed on his duty. It was duty, but his love for Bhakti Siddhanta, and his love for the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his love for bringing people to the position of proper consciousness. And I'm not pure enough. The problem is not over there, the problem is over here. Then you don't have to feel bad about yourself. You just, strive for purity. And then you just hit the reset button. And however many times you have to hit the reset button, you hit the reset button. And go into the mood of service without expectations. Read the prayer, and it's a third, similar to the second, but the third is, read the Prabhupada's arrival prayer. That's a good reset button. I don't know why you brought me here. These people, but you have your purpose. So if you like, make me dance as you like. Yours is the success or failure is in your hand. So when one is in pure devotion, there's not a sense like you described, there's not a feeling. The feeling is dissipated by the mood of service. As an instrument of Krishna, and let my false ego get out of the way to be a better instrument. And then it's possible that the no can become a yes. Maybe not. It may take years.
Maharaj, from yesterday and also today's Jai Vijay's
Hold the
story.
microphone a little further away because he ramped up the volume on the speaker.
From yesterday's class and today of Jai Vijay, there seems to be two types of demons. One is that those who are liberated and they come as demons, like Jai and Vijay, and those who are
Pretty unique.
demons. So we were, like a week ago in Bhagavatam class, we were wondering if all these demons that come to Krishna, the demons themselves, are they under Mahamaya?
Oh, yes.
Or they're Yogamaya?
No, Mahamaya. They surrendered to Mahamaya. Now, is there an element? Yes. Is there an element of Krishna's desires being fulfilled and Krishna's desiring fulfilled? Isn't that Yogamaya, please? So, but as we know, there's one energy that can make things hot or make things cold. It's electricity. So the internal energy of Krishna can act this way or can act that way, but one energy. So Krishna's internal, it's Krishna's personal energy acting as Mahamaya, covering, because otherwise they can't do what they do. It's Mahamaya. Big time. That's my answer. You want us to add to this?
Yeah. I'll go and listen to it again. I couldn't hear properly with the system. In the temple, it's very hard to, somehow the sound system.
Yeah,
I struggle
something
with
about
it.
the sound system.
Yes.
Something about my hearing too.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I also had another question. You were mentioning today about the offense, the Vaishnava Prad, and when you mentioned Bharat Maharaj, then we were mentioning it was from a previous lifetime, something that came in the present lifetime. When we don't know the source of the aparad, Vaishnava aparad, and either from this lifetime or a previous lifetime, especially if it could be coming from a previous lifetime, and you mentioned how it's very serious, then how does one protect oneself from aparads that one does not know where they're coming from?
Well, there's ones that are in the past, and whether it's in this life or a previous life, and I don't know what that is, but the circumstance is unfolding in the moment. So where it's coming from is not the essence that my inquisitiveness should go to. It can be this or that or something else or remain unknown, whatever. However, here's the circumstance. And so now, how do I address the circumstance? It's a little bit like your question, different, but it's a little bit like your question. Stay the course. And if there's some inconvenience, you accept it. And stay the course of the position, the mood of service, and the service that's before you as best you can, to your capacity. With dependence upon Krishna, that whatever the source is, whatever the offense is, let me accept the offense and let me carry on with my service, because that's my real position. There are different prayers one can say in those moments, my dear Lord, if you so desire, or something. But keep that connection vibrant. And our main connection is the connection of service. for the pleasure of Krishna, not for my relief of some hardship. Okay, last question over here.
Guruji, there's a statement in the purport, for a dutiful man, there is no fear. And I can understand in the case of, for example, transcendental personalities.
Yes.
You often describe Ambarish Maharaj, his feet didn't move and his mind didn't move.
Yeah.
So there is no fear. Similarly, with Srila Prabhupada preaching behind the Iron Curtain, or
Yeah.
yourself preaching in countries where there's danger.
Yeah.
And yet this statement is talking about a dutiful man. So this, I don't understand this statement to be speaking of personalities.
It's a transcendental, dutiful man.
So this statement is referring to personalities of this caliber.
Yes.
And for the rest
That's
of...
my understanding.
Okay.
Because, a dutiful person can be trepidatious. Here comes an obstacle. I'm dutiful, I'll carry on, but I'm recognizing the feeling of fear, and I'm treading lightly because of fear. Now, a transcendentalist, using these examples of going into places where there's big risk, a decision may be, I'm not going to go to that place. I'll find the back door, or side room, or something. The mission doesn't stop, but just the procedure may be adjusted according to circumstance, but not out of fear. It's just, using intelligence instead of fear.
Raj, while there is an acknowledgement and an expression and an acceptance of the reality of the presence of fear
Yes.
in us.
Oh, presence of fear, not presence of obstacle, but presence of fear.
Yes,
Okay.
that we are aware and we're honest that there is fear, yet
Then?
the platform of duty can steady the intelligence.
Yes, the mind steadied by that intelligence. I am Krishna's eternal servant, at least, I'm not fully realized, but I accept it. That's the intelligence guiding the mind. And my intelligence says, I am to be dutiful. And that there's worldly, and then there's transcendental duty. So I approach both the duty and the transcendental duty, the worldly and the transcendental. You stay fixed. There may still be some fear, but I'm managing the fear by that principle. Srila Prabhupada ki.